Hey, what's going on, guys? Aaron here, and welcome back to the Pitlane Podcast, episode 103 today, to discuss some Formula One news. Obviously, it's an off-race week podcast. We've got plenty of few little articles, even though the championship's kind of wrapped over for the drivers. There's still the constructors, and there's been plenty of actually, news to kind of, talk about for 2019, kind of going into the next season already. But you're back with you as your host, myself, Aaron, Callum, and Tom, and we're going to kick things off with something that is going to affect next year in quite a big way, a visual big way. Is going to be obviously the news that we kind of didn't really acknowledge last podcast was that Rich Energy have sponsored Haas to the point where they're a title sponsor, a livery sponsor, if you will. And so the Haas car may look very different next year, but we need to talk about it because it is a little bit sus in a way. Like, at least personally, I don't know about how you guys feel. We'll kind of discuss that right now. But if you don't know, Rich Energy were one of the potential buyers of Force India when they were in trouble. Obviously, it then, got bought out by Lance Stroll's dad, and that's going to form whatever, with Racing Point now. But they were one of the potential buyers, but they just didn't have the funds, and people at the time were questioning where on earth have they come out of. They come out of thin air. They're apparently a premium energy drink company in the UK. And I don't know about you, like, obviously Tom lives in Spain now, but Cal, I don't think we've ever seen Rich Energy on any store or even advertised online, because I think people are saying to me that it seems to be like an online only kind of drink that you can buy from online, but even advertising wise, I've never heard of them.
No, I go shopping quite a lot now being at uni. Never seen them on a shelf, never seen them been advertised on billboards, no advertisements online, nothing to do with maybe an Amazon thing. Literally one of the most peculiar companies to ever come and try and get themselves involved in the biggest motorsport in the world. Like, you'd get Red Bull. Everyone knew what Red Bull was before. What is Rich Energy? Not a clue.
No idea. To speak about Amazon, there was a really funny thing if you go to that Amazon page, there is a review. The top review is someone who's like put their name as VJ Malia and it's like basically done like a little funny comical review of like, oh yeah, I wanted to have Rich Energy, but BWT came in and did a better job, blah blah blah. So everything surrounding this company is very weird. And then we had actually one of the guys in our Patreon Discord, because they support us enough to be in the Discord group. They kind of posted this thing last week, and I said we'll save this for this exact episode, basically, which is there's apparently another company called White, like energy performance company, and they have the exact same logo apparently as Rich Energy. And so there's a potential sort of copyright infringement sort of thing going on there. It seems maybe Rich Energy is a shell company in terms of like the way they operate, and that they've actually got a lot of debts in there. So it's just very weird, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because obviously there is no way they can hide in Formula One. You have to cough up the funds. So I don't know. Is it a good move for Haas? I guess they wouldn't have signed it if not, but
it seems weird. It's very similar to the win now thing Ferrari got going on, which nobody knows what the hell exactly it is. You just know it's backed by inverted commas, even though they don't say it's this. It's Marlboro, aka Philip Morris International. And with Rich Energy, like you said, we know nothing about it. Literally, no one's seen it. Either they're doing some year 3018 marketing strategy, which we do not know about, and they're doing some black market stuff, or I don't know, because nobody has seen this anywhere. It's a mystery, and I'm curious to see what happens. I mean, personally, in principle, in terms of what it means for the sport, it just means for us on the grid next year, instead of having the very basic Haas livery, we should get the return of the black and gold. But having said that, that's about the only positive I can find in this at the moment, because it's just a massive interrogation mark. It really is, isn't it?
Yeah. Copyright infringement is quite a big thing. I mean, even F1. I don't know if you
two. Exclamation mark.
Yeah, I don't even know. This has been kept very much on the down low, but copyright infringement is an expensive business. Like, I don't know whether many people watching, or even you two, know about the whole F1 logo. That hit a few copyright sticking points, which I'm not entirely sure if they've got over yet. With a company, I can't remember what the company's called, but I think they do socks or thermal socks or something like that. And the logo does look identical. Yeah. And obviously they are stuck in a hard place of, do they just change the logo, which is now pretty much liked by the most of the community, like it works in the new graphics package, or do they just pay it off, or do they change it? And it's a sticking point for Rich Energy, who are apparently in at least £1 million worth of debt, which is quite surprising to say they're trying to come into Formula One, which is, I mean, if you're not in the top 3 teams, you're more than likely going to be spending lots of money, and you're not going to be making much of the money back. So, and it's Formula One, and in probably the most expensive period of Formula One at the moment, in going into a regs change as well, so that's even more money being put into research and development. What Rich Energy are going to bring to Haas, I'm not really sure, apart from a logo. And, well, maybe not even a logo, because I don't know whether they've got the full rights on that, but they've got at least maybe a different livery. But other than that, I don't think Haas are going to get much money from them unless they can sort out their debts, which is very scary because it's rare to see a company come into Formula One with debts. Usually they leave with debts.
Yeah, that's exactly literally what they do. They usually leave with negative, not enter it and somehow come out positive. So, yeah, it's an odd one. We'll as Tom kind of said right before the podcast, it's a developing story. We'll bring you more with that, with that news update. But kind of pivoting from Haas, still staying on that team, moving away from their sponsorship. Going back to all the way, cast your minds back to the Italian Grand Prix. Grosjean got a really great points finish, and then afterwards he got disqualified because, wasn't it Renault? I think it was, brought up the point that their flooring, the way their barge boards were illegal, because the rule is in Formula One, if you look from underneath the F1 car, there should be no sort of slot hole in the barge board array. It should be a clean hole all the way through. That's why certain teams like Williams especially is very apparent on the black kind of barge boards. They all have these tiny little slot kind of streaks on all their barge boards to make sure it lines up with any holes they've got in the floor underneath, so that if you look all the way through, it is like a whole hole through, and it's not like a little kind of covered up slot, if you will, or kind of like opening. And that wasn't the case on Haas's floor, for Grosjean at least. I don't know if maybe Magnussen was running a different configuration.
There was running different floors that weekend. Yeah,
but so that went to appeal, and so he's going to get appealed literally last Friday. So it took a long time. It's not been uncommon. We've had it in the past in kind of the more kind of famous Hunt and Lauda era, where the McLaren had to kind of appeal something like that, and it took ages. And it's just the way Formula One does things. That kind of appeal case takes ages, and so they find out, and it did not stick. So they lost the appeal, and so Haas are stuck in a hard place in terms of that could potentially could have been some decent points to maybe give them a little bit of a chance to catch up to Renault, but now pretty much it's a sunken ship sort of thing that Renault probably are now comfy, you would say, for P4. And that's a shame in a way, because that was a great result for Grosjean, and Haas, I don't know. It's a shame for them, but they've also been such a yo-yo kind of on and off team in a way, where it's kind of like, would they have actually held up a fight against Renault? Because Renault have been on the up as of late in the last 2 races, and Haas have really been nowhere. They literally were nowhere in Mexico. We didn't even see them on the TV at Mexico. So,
yeah, I was just literally about to say that Mexico, they were pretty much nowhere. So whether or not that would affect the race in the championship, I'm not sure. I mean, as much as you don't want to be pointing fingers and going, oh yeah, well, he's got something wrong with his car. Yeah. It is still against the regs. And Renault, if they found any sort of benefit from filing a complaint, then obviously they're going to go and do it. So there's nothing wrong on Renault's part. And there's nothing wrong on Grosjean's part either. So at least he can say that he did get that. I think it was 6th place in the Italian Grand Prix. But obviously they didn't reap the points out of that. But yeah, I think they were given. I feel like it was a slam dunk, because they were given plenty of notice to change the floor. They didn't. They turned up to Italy and they raced with it, knowing full well that they could get reported. And obviously, if one of your main rivals sees it, they're instantly going to report it. So, to be fair, in a way, what you just said, Arav, about how long it took, I know that's how F1 does it, but I was surprised it took that long, because
it seemed like a slam dunk.
It's very much a slam dunk penalty. It's like speeding in the pit lane, for example. It's a slam dunk. It just is, because it's just against the rules. So I was quite shocked at that. But I think Haas were holding out, because it was. I mean, 6th place is what, 8 points. Yeah. That's quite big in the midfield. So it is a shame for them, but they've got to keep their heads up. They've still got 2 races left, but it does look like Renault are probably a bit too far ahead now.
Yep, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and Brazil probably could be a good race for Renault maybe, and Abu Dhabi, I don't know. For Renault, probably okay. Haas, I would say maybe it's not one of those yo-yo ones that they could just turn up and not be great. So yeah, we'll have to see about that. But that's really the short little stick of Haas's kind of Italian thing. Nothing really more to discuss there. So moving on to the kind of rest of the season, on to next year as well. Some inklings there. Obviously, there was that joke. Well, not joke, but kind of an in the moment thing that Ricciardo spoke about after the Mexican Grand Prix. He said that I don't want to drive this car. Gasly can get in it. And at the time, he sounded really, he didn't sound like he was joking. He was very kind of like, monotone, like fully serious that, you could just walk away and let Gasly drive. And it wouldn't be unheard of. Red Bull have definitely done surprise shift drivers in the past, but he has confirmed he will be driving for Brazil and Abu Dhabi. So I don't know. I know we're doing predictions later, guys, but do you guys reckon he'll get a clean 2 races, or will something else go wrong?
I don't think so. I think maybe Abu Dhabi.
Right, okay. A clean run
But
in
then
the
again,
last race.
maybe not, because that could be the one where he retires in a really bad way to end the season off on like a misery compiler. I don't know. I'm going to stick with my gut. I don't think so. I think he's going to have a poor end. Yeah.
I mean, it's just a trend, isn't it? So he's going to keep following the trend. It's not like it's even a joke anymore. It's like I don't know, it's 7 or 9 DNFs this season.
7.
But that's in the race. Never mind practice sessions, qualifying sessions, and everything else in between. I mean, at first it did sound like he was really serious about it, and I was almost willing to see Gasly in it for the. I mean, it would have helped him out. It would have helped Gasly out. But it's quite ironic as well, coming off the back of last week where Ricciardo wasn't even allowed to drive the Renault. I don't know whether he has to drive the Red Bull, but he's definitely not allowed to drive the Renault in the Abu Dhabi post season
he wants
test.
He wants to do the Renault.
He wants to drive
the
Renault.
He's not going to be allowed. And
whether or not he's forced to drive the Red Bull or not.
Red Bull won't make him drive it because that will have some data for next year. So there's no way so he's just going to sit out basically.
Which is a little bit of a shame. So he's basically driving a car that it was so petty. But it's a little bit of a shame for Ricciardo because he's going to be sat there going, great, I'm driving a car I don't even want to drive, and I'm not even allowed to drive the car that I want to drive. I've got to wait until 2019 before I can start driving again.
Yeah, so a bit of a odd situation there. That is definitely it's very Red Bull like though. I say petty, it's also not
It's very petty is Red Bull. In a way,
not surprising really. That definitely Red Bull are taking liberties with the fact that the contract probably doesn't run out until the very end of the November period. Or
I bet it's the 31st of January, 31st of December.
Probably.
Put it past it,
knowing Red Bull, probably they're like, no, you can't even go to the factory and do stuff with them until the new year.
I bet also, being Red Bull, I bet they've got PR events planned for both Brazil and Abu Dhabi that Ricciardo's got to turn up to.
Yeah.
So that's probably the reason why he's even. It'd be funny because he might not want to drive the car, but he'd have to do the PR stuff because he's contractually obliged to do it.
Yeah.
Which
in
is
the invitational. Just
exactly.
bin the car, crash it. Screw you, I'm out of here.
Just parks it, lap 1. Right. Let me go do this PR shit, and then I'm going to be out of here for the rest of the season. But it would be good to see him at least finish the next 2 races. But I haven't got high hopes for him.
No, I just got that vibe. It's just not. It's just done. Like that. This chapter in his career is kind of. He just wants it to end as fast as possible. So. Yeah, we'll see. So, talking about next year as well. Williams. Well, obviously we've heard about Williams realising they've had some structural issues in their team. They've done some reshuffling since. They're going to do some more reshuffling for next year. Obviously, they lose Martini. We don't know what they're going to do in terms of sponsorship there. They've signed George Russell, obviously, we saw. They're still up in the air about the second driver. And now, Rob Smedley has announced that he's going to be leaving Williams at the end of this season. We don't know where he's going. He said that he wants to take plenty of time with his family before he decides his next move, because he's been in the sport for a fair old time. So I guess he wants to take a bit of a breather, really. F1's obviously a very harsh job in terms of not actually back at home for a lot of the time anyway. Even I think the biggest period will be the summer break. Obviously he came to Williams in a really good period. We remember that 2014 out of nowhere Williams are back after a horrendous 2013, and 2014-15 two third places in a row.
Yep.
In the championship. Then it was 5th place in 2016 and 2017, and here now it's been a bit of a miserable season. So who can blame him? But what does that mean for Williams? Do you reckon that's quite a big shift? Obviously they still have Paddy Lowe, but I don't know. It almost feels like maybe I don't think they have the power to get too many top guys anymore, really. So they're gonna have to dig a little bit deeper, maybe, for other personnel around the paddock for their.
I mean, it was quite a shock when he went there, because obviously he left with Massa. Like, it was a joint move with Massa to Williams, and you could argue that he had a very good seat. Like, I mean, 2014, you can't really put much down to him because because the car was probably already been developed by that point, or was in pretty much nearing the end.
He oversaw the operating though, so
he oversaw it though. It's a bit like when like Allison had came into Ferrari at certain points, or when he came into Mercedes. Like the car was good, but it wasn't his car, and he wasn't really looking over it. But maybe I don't know. I don't want to say he'd lost his way, but. I mean, he's a race engineer. I don't even know what his role is, but obviously he was a race engineer at Ferrari for Massa, and he seemed to be more of a team manager.
Yeah, he was like operation, like he oversaw. I don't think he actually did a lot of the nitty gritty stuff. I think it was more of a like you said, the principal sort of role almost in a way of like the race.
But
team.
you have got to take a step back and think he's been in the sport for well over 10 years now, so you can see why he does want to take a step back. Because it is very demanding. And bearing in mind, I mean, Williams is probably less demanding than what Ferrari was, which is probably one of the reasons why he went to Williams, and also the fact that Williams is based in the UK rather than Ferrari and Maranello.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like, I guess in a way, but Williams almost went up to him and went, maybe time for you to move on, because I think they do need a big reshuffle at Williams. It's not just a small thing, not like what Ferrari does sometimes, where they just move like one or two people around, or even Mercedes. Mercedes is quite good at that, where they just shift one or so people into different positions and it clicks. Williams need an upside down turn because the way their car went on the downturn was quite shocking. So they do need some change.
Yeah, I'm not really going to comment much because I don't really know what he done, what his role really is. So I don't really know what he's responsible for. I get the vibe it's similar though to what Boullier was to McLaren. So yeah, I don't know. I wish him well. F1, like you said, is not getting any easier. Put it that way. The calendars are getting longer. They're getting more expanded now. Next season going into December, and it's a fair reason. I think it's a very fair reason. And it goes back to what we mentioned before on the podcast. Maybe if the seasons get much longer and much more dense in terms of quantity, they have to start considering maybe having like 2 teams within a team. So. You can kind of spread
first half, second half sort of thing, or like I don't know, just like every other race sort of team, something like that. Because I mean, I don't know, the calendar hopefully doesn't get any longer just for the sake.
I mean, they still like. Can you actually imagine 25 races? Like it seems like they want that because apparently they want to look for a race in Vietnam. Apparently that's about to be agreed in principle.
Bloody hell. Of all places.
That Miami one's still pending. But it should be for 2020.
Think about that though. That I feel like I'm sick of this season now. Like I'm like, okay, two races left. It's just going to be a fight for the constructors, which is going to be quite good. But getting towards Christmas, I'm quite happy.
Finished, I think.
Yeah, title race is finished as well. Could you imagine there still being like 7 races left? I mean, obviously, if you at this point in a 25 race calendar, they would have already happened. But I'm not going to lie. Like even when people ask me, like, oh, if you reflect on the season, can you remember everything? I can't remember a lot of the races. I have to properly think, and we've only got what 20 rounds this season.
That's the beauty of season reviews.
Yeah, you need honestly you need a season review. I have to keep going back on the YouTube channel to just keep refreshing and keep rewatching it. Almost in a way, it's quite fun to watch them back. You're like, oh, I forgot about that race. Let's watch it. In a way, it's quite nice, but it is hard to keep. So even as a viewer, it's hard to keep on top of it. Never mind the personnel. I mean, I've just read that article. It's 20 years in the sport for Rob Smedley. That's a long time to be doing. Obviously, for a period of time, a lot of it was just 16 rounds, 17 rounds, then he went 18 and 19. Now it's 20. So it is rather demanding. So you can see why he's stepped off the ship for a little bit, but I can see him appear like in a random Force India spot.
I'd love him to come back as an actual race engineer because it was hilarious. Some of the messages
he was good on, he was good on the radio.
With Massa were hilarious. Obviously, he won't have the exact same rapport as he did with Felipe because you could clearly see a very special relationship. The two
like
had
a father-son relationship.
Yeah, the two had a lot of banter. But yeah, I mean, some great quotes. I remember like so many like times where he got pissed off at Massa for doing certain things, just literally on the commentary box. So you could just tell he's just said, "For fuck's sake, Felipe," or what was it? Malaysia, we're bringing the white visor. There's a lot of memorable quotes.
Cool.
So yeah,
stay cool, baby.
Yeah, stay cool, Felipe, baby. So Robert Smedley will be missed in that kind of regard. Obviously, we haven't seen a lot of him actually over the last couple of years, but yeah, he'll probably pop up. You have no doubt, probably, unless he's really that tired of it, he just retires from F1 in terms of looks elsewhere for jobs. But moving on then to, before we do predictions for the Brazilian Grand Prix, just a kind of question almost of, Mercedes are targeting obviously the Constructors' Championship. And if they do that, there will be only the second team to do 5 in a row. Obviously, Ferrari being the only one to do that. So that's quite a big deal for the history of the sport. Like I kind of said last podcast, and all three of us kind of, almost, realizing that in a way. Like what we watched there was history being made, and you don't realize it in the moment, but obviously down the years you will kind of go back and look at it, and you'll be like, oh, I was like, so and so age, I watched this with my own 2 eyes of Hamilton getting his 5th championship, Mercedes 5 in a row. That's a pretty big deal for the history, because it's only the second team that's done that.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, it's quite nice that the Drivers' Championship is wrapped up, because it puts a bit more pressure on it now, because as we go into the last 2 races looking at that one championship, and it's going to be nice. And it's Ferrari versus Mercedes. It's 2 heavyweights.
So we said in the last podcast, normally the Constructors is wrapped up now, about 3 races ago, and it's the Drivers that's all to play for. But for a change, the Constructors is all to play for, and I'm just hoping it goes down to the wire, hopefully. But Ferrari will need to outscore Mercedes by 13 points to make it happen.
Well,
which you can't put it past them, really.
Yeah,
I mean, as we go into Brazil, obviously Brazil is a track that is also affected by altitude, nowhere near as much as Mexico. I think Chain Bear did a really brilliant video on it, discussing how the altitude affects the cars. And I think they lost about 26% of performance in Mexico, whereas only in Brazil they lose about 10%. So it's not going to be as effective, but it is still nonetheless going to be affecting the cars. And Mercedes clearly didn't enjoy those conditions, but I like what Tom said. I'd like to see it go down to the wire, but it's just going to be interesting because again we're seeing history being made, and something that also slipped under us last weekend. But Hamilton's one of the few drivers to get the double twice, so to get 2 consecutive championships in a row twice, which is very rare to see. Obviously Vettel, I don't think Vettel's counting because he did 4 in a row. But it's rare to see a driver
2 separate doubles,
2 separate doubles. So he did 2014, 2015, then 2017, 2018, which is rare to see, and we missed that completely. So there's so many records and so much history being made. He's struggling to keep up, to be honest.
Yeah, like so many from record books.
But yeah, let's hope it goes down to Abu Dhabi, which does kind of hurt me a little bit. I really wish they switched Brazil and Abu Dhabi round. Because even though Abu Dhabi puts on a spectacle, it doesn't put on a spectacle of a race.
Yeah, the race. Well, it depends on the conditions of Brazil, because sometimes a bone dry Brazil race, depending on how close the field are, can be a bit dry as well because of the dirty air.
But then we know full well what it's like when it's raining. Shout out, actually, I feel like slight off topic here. Shout out to the guys at Liberty for just restreaming the 2008 Grand Prix.
Yeah, they did on the YouTube channel.
Well, that was so randomly
in wide HD.
Yeah, that was sick. I've only ever watched that race once, I don't know, back in 2009 or something. And I just literally sat down the other day and just watched the whole thing, gripped to it. Thought that was absolutely brilliant from Liberty to actually restream that, and it had a lot of viewers as well. To say how little they publicised it, it had at least, I think it was 25,000 viewers on YouTube, 8,000 on Facebook. God knows what would have, and it was a Friday night.
Exactly. Yeah.
That was really impressive. As surprised they didn't do that on off race weekend.
I saw a suggestion that on the last weekend, because it's Alonso's potential last race for a while in F1, that he should do at least 1 or 2 streams of Alonso's best best races.
Yeah, they should do.
Obviously, we don't know. Alonso might come back, but it is effectively almost like a retirement in a way from the sport for now. So that was I actually like that idea, because it would be kind of nice gesture on because since Liberty Media apparently tried very hard to keep him in the sport, I think it would be a nice gesture, and clearly it wasn't that difficult to do. They reran the entire Brazilian Grand Prix randomly on a Friday, so they definitely could do on the Friday or Thursday of Abu Dhabi, just a nice little do a vote on Twitter. What's Alonso's best race?
The 2010 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
Oh god, no. No, they'd do a vote obviously of what was
I'd like to rewatch Valencia 2012. I'd like to rewatch that race. That was a good race.
I remember being a hectic race. Yeah, Hamilton the wall, Vettel out.
Yeah, Vettel out. He mugged. Who did he mug around the outside? Was it Grosjean? Grosjean at turn 2.
I think so. Maybe.
He did a brilliant race. That was. I'd love to see that.
Was it Schumacher on the podium, wasn't it, as well?
Schumacher managed to get his podium, yeah.
So, it was actually
Kimi, Alonso, and Marco on the podium.
Yeah, it was quite a weird race.
Special.
Quite a weird race for a track that in the end wasn't that popular. It was
was its last race.
It was,
weirdly.
Yeah, Like sometimes the utter
on a
crap
bang.
tracks do actually turn up some good ones when chaos occurs.
That was
And
the
I
only
think
one it did, mate.
It's worth noting as well because in terms of Brazil, I think its days are numbered now in terms of race circuit for F1 based off of the reports we get.
All right,
Apparently the next races are going to be free to run, like they're not going to cost anything, and basically F1's paying for everything out of their pocket. And obviously the history in terms of trouble outside of the circuit.
Yeah,
in
that's
recent
true.
years.
Well, literally last year, like some reporters were saying their cars got broken into. Like the security is just
I think
horrendous.
the current deal's got like 3 races left on it, so once
Right.
that's finished, I think that's going to be the end of it.
It's such a shame to see, to be honest, because it is probably one of the best tracks on the calendar. Like, it's up there as it's a cracking
yeah.
it's
little
just such
circuit.
a famous track. I mean,
So
They need
much
to just clamp
history.
down, help it out, you know.
Yeah, they need to. I think Massa's been trying to push, hasn't he? He's been properly trying to push the security around there, and it's been more common in recent years that there has been incidents.
yeah, I don't
So I
remember there
wouldn't be
being those kind of
surprised if we
reports
see
about it.
something on Twitter come up saying that there's been another incident, which is not right in the slightest. Like, F1 personnel should
No.
not be.
It's their
put in
place of
danger
work.
just to go
They're going to
racing.
work. They shouldn't feel like
Exactly.
they're gonna, park up for work and come back and their car's been broken into and valuables have been stolen and whatnot. So
Exactly. So
yes.
fingers crossed that doesn't happen this weekend, but
yeah, hopefully
wouldn't
not.
put it past it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Well-
more of a common thing these days.
We're on Brazil, so we may as well get to the end here and do the predictions for the Brazilian Grand Prix. So let's start off with pole position, gents. What do we think? Who's going to be on pole?
I do not have a clue.
I'm going to say Vettel takes pole.
All
I
right.
think the championship pressure off.
Could you imagine?
It'd be very typical for him to win the next 2 races.
It would, to be honest.
And that's the
I
vibe I'm
I
getting.
just don't. Who was on pole last year? It was Bottas, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Vettel took him into turn 1 and won the race. So
I'll say Hamilton pole then. If
I
Mercedes
think
went well last
just
year.
because of Hamilton's tendency, I know he's the constructors still up for grabs, but because it's just not the drivers, Hamilton tends to fade after the championship's won. So
Yeah, I'm gonna go Bottas pole again. I reckon.
Back again.
I reckon Hamilton switches off a little bit. The Merc's still going to be pretty competitive, and Bottas, I don't know, he's pretty handy. He was pretty handy around there over one lap last year, so why not again? So,
I think it's between Ferrari and Red Bull for me around here.
All right, so what are you saying? You saying Vettel?
I say Vettel, yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently Mercedes have found a solution to their issues in Mexico, according to Toto Wolff, he said today.
Right.
But we will see that once. they
Yeah, well, obviously
actually
we'll
get
see
going.
when we get there on Friday. That was very apparent in Mexico that on Friday they were going to struggle. Right, so the top 5 then. Any other one you want to go first on that top 5?
Well, I wanna
Seems
say
like quite a
that-
tough
I
one actually
wanna-
to call because it's coming off the back of Mexico. It's kind of like throwing the entire rule book in the bin in a way.
Yeah.
Of what we're thinking here.
I want to see it go down to the wire, so I'm going to say Sebastian, Kimi, Max, and then I'm sorry, Ricardo, but you're retiring, mate, so Lewis and Bottas.
Jeez. All right.
All right, okay. I want to say Vettel will win, then Hamilton will be second, Kimi third. Say Verstappen fourth, and then Bottas fifth.
I'm going to go with, I said Bottas pole, so I'm going to say again Vettel can get him into the turn 1 or lap 1 at least. So Vettel wins, Bottas second, Verstappen third, Hamilton fourth, Kimi fifth. I don't think Ricciardo will retire, but I think he'll just come 6th, a low-key kind of finish, I think.
I'm quite curious on the weather now. Let me just double check.
Yeah, let's have the calendar weatherman check it quickly.
Well, it's like Met Office is brilliant. They've put a cloud with a bit of sun and then a raindrop underneath.
Right, so it's going to be everything then.
So
Okay,
basically,
cool. Sound.
and that's on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Thank you, Met Office, for that brilliant.
Oh, to be fair, Sunday. Well, Saturday looks the most likely to rain. Sunday also possibility of rain.
If it rains on Saturday, if it rains in general, I think the Red Bulls go a lot better than
I
they do.
think a wet qualifying session at Interlagos is brilliant. Can you remember back to 2009? That was probably one of the best qualifying sessions I've ever watched.
Or
And
10.
Or 10 as
Yeah,
well.
or 10, yeah.
I don't
Right,
know, there's
yeah.
just something about
It's-
qualifying at Interlagos which is in the
Definitely-
wet.
Yeah, definitely.
It's brilliant.
It's one of those really like up and down tracks as well, where like the rain, like I don't know, it just it seems to affect more like random drivers more than others in a way, like the way you drive
Yeah.
the track, because there's so much actually road to actually go around, so many different racing lines you can take, especially into sector 2 with the way you navigate those curves up and down, like
Which is one of the reasons why Hamilton could get pole if it rains.
maybe just the way he
Because
finds time around there.
The way him and Verstappen find time is
Well, yeah, back to 2016, some of the weirder racing lines Verstappen was always taking every single lap in the race was really helping him cut through the field. So
Yeah.
yeah, but obviously,
I'm quite excited to see now.
Every single year, rain's not gonna go like unwelcome at Brazil. It'll always be.
Oh no.
Everyone will be up in arms, enjoy it, rain at Brazil. So we'll have to see about that one. But yeah, so I guess all of us hoping that it can just, for the sake of the constructors, can make it help go down to Abu Dhabi, and then hopefully just an exciting race like we didn't have last year. Hopefully that we had in 2016. That would be quite a nice one, because 2017 was a bit dry. There was a lot of dirty air fests. So yeah, hoping for that kind of thing. But I think that's pretty much it. Are there any kind of other topics you guys want to raise before we round out? Really?
Not really.
Should we just call it one? Yeah,
it's the season. We just need 2 good races now.
Yeah,
2 good races to round out the season.
And on a high.
That's the last statement. That's what we're hoping for Brazil and what we'll hope for Abu Dhabi. But that's going to be the podcast 103, guys. So if you guys did enjoy it, then be sure to hit that like button. Let us know what you thought in the comments below about anything we talked about. The Rich Energy. What do you make of the Rich Energy? Do you guys have that same sort of doubt that me and Tom Cowell kind of have?
Do you drink Rich Energy?
If anyone, that's a good question. Yeah, that's
have you seen?
Have you seen this energy drink? If you have, call us here at this number.
Send us a postcard.
Yeah, no, if you have ever seen Rich Energy, or if you drank Rich Energy ever in your life, then do let us know. There might be one sole guy, and I don't want someone from Rich Energy making an account, alright? So, just putting that out there, but,
I mean, they could be in the yellow pages, you never know. Yellow pages.
Oh, yeah.
Yellow pages.
The yellow page. I haven't seen a yellow page in how long? If I say this, it's going to make me feel old now.
It's easily 10 years since I've
Listen,
seen
it. If you do see Rich Energy, just send us a fax, okay?
Yeah, just do that, yeah. But obviously our socials always on screen, so do follow us on Twitter, and we tweet about F1 sometimes on the weekends when the races come out. It's a lot of banter on Twitter. If you do enjoy what we're doing around here, like I said, the kind of Rich Energy thing, the kind of doubts and the copyright thing were brought to us by Ram McPhee from our Patreon Discord. So if you do like what we're doing enough to want to support us, you can check out our Patreon. If you do that enough, then you can get into the Discord server as well. If you do want to get us on audio, always SoundCloud and iTunes are available. Links all below in the description. And if you do fancy getting yourself an office chair or a desk chair for either just your work, uni, I don't know, or racing on F1 2018, the game, or whatever racing game of your choice, and you can check out GT Omega and use the code PitlaneF1. That will directly help us as well. So that's much appreciated if any of you guys do use that code. And we'll see you guys next time for the review of the Brazilian Grand Prix. Hopefully we're saying it's an absolute cracker and it's taking the championship down to the wire for Abu Dhabi. Hopefully that's it. Let's all pray and hope that is the case. But we'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.